All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to today's session. My name is Thomas Stilling, and we're going to talk a little bit about DAM transformers, hybrid professionals, and hopefully tell some jokes and stories and get you to raise your hand and participate a little bit and have some fun. I am sad to inform you I have no prizes today. However, if you are at the bar later, I will offer up rewards for those who participate actively. So let's go ahead with that and get started. Just a little background on me. So I recently worked at Fox for just about 10 years and had all sorts of DAM fun, everything from enterprise-wide systems to access databases controlled by Outlook with a macro connected to Excel. So I have the full range of the experience, and prior to that, worked as a consultant for companies like TV Guide and Sony. And as I told earlier on the panel, in 2 weeks, I put the dog in the back of my car and I moved to New York. So I'm very excited about that. I grew up here, and I have to change my accent a little bit and get used to humidity. So we'll see how that goes. But let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted to list out some of the topics I hope that we talk about today and make it interesting. So, starting with what's driving the need for hybrid professionals. And we will talk about that word because there was some discussion prior to today's talk about, do you use the word hybrid? Do you call it blended? What is the right word to describe all of the skills and experiences that we need to be as DAM professionals? Happy, successful, enlightened professionals. And more on that. So what skills do we want? What's needed now, and how do you move forward? And these are all great questions for any point in your career or in your DAM journey, and this really is a journey. I think that as the industries have evolved, as this field has evolved, there is so much going on that it sort of behooves yourselves on a personal and professional level to ask yourself these questions on a semi-regular basis and sort of metric yourself. We joke about metrics for operations and about distributions, but actually these are questions and ideas that you should be talking in your own head about on a semi-regular basis or to your dog. My dog's name is Emmett. So let's talk about the business need. So everyone's favorite word, no matter what industry you're in, whether you're dealing with Tesla or Uber or Lyft or marketing, it's all about disruption. And so disruption paired with volume and complexity. There's a wonderful chart that the studios distributed a couple years ago, and they talked about how the decline of physical goods was moving this way, but the explosion of digital goods was going up. And if you remember the old Staples commercial, I think that was the one with the red button, and digital is easy. Has anyone ever had an executive turn to them and say, well, it's digital, it's easy? Yes? Someone. And what we found out is that it's actually very hard. Digital isn't easy. And I think that when you evolve from different industries and different roles into a DAM type position, or either as one yourself or working with another DAM professional, you got to be cognizant of that and of the backgrounds. I think obviously in terms of the external push, the marketplace, and shifting consumer expectations. And we were just talking in the recent panel about the most driving thing that consumers want, and consumers want it now. Like, how many of you use Amazon Prime and are thrilled that you can get your Scotch tape by 2 p.m. that same day? Absolutely. So you take that attitude and you come to work, and then you look at your DAM system, and you're like, I need to find my art right now. And then someone very nicely explains to you why they'll have it to you in the next iteration or in the following release, and that's coming out in 18 to 20 months. That's not the right now experience. So you have the business need on one side, and then you have the challenges on the others. And I love the term unforced errors. If you love baseball or any sort of sport, an unforced error is basically where you've just done it to yourself. And I think if you haven't been thoughtful about how to meet your business needs and how to design your DAM systems and your processes, you're creating errors just for your own. Time-consuming workflows. And someone made the joke about, well, if there really is a workflow. I think that a lot of what we work on is taking existing process and thinking about, okay, we can just port it over somewhere else. And what you really need to do is look at your existing processes and how can you make it better? How can you reinvent your workflows and your teams and your people to be more efficient, to get to the marketplace, to help the consumer get what they want as fast as they want? Marketplace stumbles. So I do love vintage stories, vintage Fox stories, because they're fun to tell now that I'm not at Fox. But one of my favorite ones is years ago, and this is all public, but it's not just Fox. It's when you were working on a physical product, and maybe the disc inside the product was in German, and the copy on the front of it was in English, and then the insert was in Japanese. And so if you can picture going to market with 100,000 copies of a specific movie that unintentionally has 3 different languages, that means that the workflow and the QA processes have completely broken down. And I think that when you do stumble in the marketplace, part of what we do as that ecosystem that's trying to make things better is you want to stop it from happening again. You want to be able to fail fast, and you want to recover. So in terms of negative consumer feedback, I have a friend who has his own auto part business, also on the Amazon store. And if you can like and you do reviews and you do stuff like that. And that's a really good metric. It's not always a sincere metric, because I do know people that will pay $5 to write a bad review for their competitor's product, and also a good one for their own. But dealing with that negative feedback, what do you need to be successful? And I think our friend Callum, who was on the panel earlier, talked about Amazon's point of view, which is that it's all about the customer. And if you make it about the customer and the customer experience, everything else that you're doing just builds up to that. So heroic efforts is the last point that I'm going to talk about. And we're going to talk a little bit about this, because I think as DAM professionals and IT and technology, because there's always a challenge for money, for resources, and for time, we're doing heroic efforts. So let's talk a little bit about that. And so I envision all of you and all of us going to work every day with our superhero cape. We are lifting the rock up. We are totally finding all the data that's been hidden in the assets. We connected the 50 DAM systems together, and we've put our thumb in the dike to make sure it works. So I want you to be thoughtful, and everyone at some point, please, you have to raise your hand, because I am curious. So to meet your own expectations and the heroic effort required for it, who in the room says that they're doing heroic effort maybe less than a quarter of the time? Oh, this is going to be a fun trend. Who's doing more than half the time heroic efforts? Longer weekends, longer days at work, maybe you had a friend that's, there we go. Who would say that your everyday existence is to get up in the morning, put on that cape, fly to work, into that wall, and start your heroic effort? All right. You absolutely, the bar is downstairs in the lobby. There were about 12 of you. So this is a challenge, and I don't think organizations and companies recognize the drain that heroic effort has on us as individuals, to our families, and to our work-life balance. And if you think about it, if you are doing so much heroic effort at work, on the one hand, you're a rock star, and you're putting in the time, and you're committed to the organization, and your performance review is just going to be outstanding. 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, again and again. And I remember that feeling. A couple years ago, when we were launching new products, I had a wonderful sales guy stop me in the hall. And I don't know if you've ever, maybe for the guys, had this happen where you're so tired in the morning that you shave one side of your face, and then you do something on your phone and answer an email, and oh my God, and you go to work, and a sales guy looked at me and was just like, dude, the other side. And you're like, oh my God, heroic efforts. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So what goes into heroic effort? So compressed timelines. It's, you have 16 weeks to do a project, and actually it's due 12. You have organizational dynamics and pressures. So, there's a bit of politics in here. There's a bit of the normal push-pull. If you're coming from a marketing perspective, you need to get, 40 different iterations out of key art in the next 2 weeks. If you're coming from an operations perspective, you are absolutely hitting your operations milestones and trying to get those KPIs moving. If you're coming from a sales perspective, your goal is to sell. And unless everything's lined up for your product to get it out the door, you are not successful. And these are all normal things. And part of the conversation about heroic effort is you are constantly getting demands from the full 360 of the organization. And that's incredibly stressful. Money is an easy one. I didn't put that at the top, but insufficient budget. There's horrible stories of professionals buying their own materials and bringing them into work. I have been in that position where on a weekend I was looking at personal dam systems to figure out if I could buy one on a credit card, expense it, and then attach it to our Access database. When you're that crazy and you're willing to spend, I don't know, $99.99 or whatever it was to fill a gap, yeah, you have budget problems. The other part is matrix support. So how many people have as their core responsibility a DAM type role? Of the people who raised their hands, how many of you started in a DAM type role? Very good. How many of you belong to a DAM team, but your role has a different title? Right. No expectations there. You must be all things to all people, right? So that's perfect and sad and very stressful. In terms of comfort zones, so I think when we talk about comfort zones and stretching our skills and stretching our languages or stretching just the people we work with, this line up here, and it can be any line. The only thing that you need to know about the complexity and volume and timelines and pressures and politics, everything's going up. In the next iteration of the business clock and the business cycle, the timelines are just getting shorter and shorter. Complexity is going up. And no one actually really knows what we're going to be doing in 2020 and what our requirements are as dam specialists or actually for dams. We make predictions. We have good ideas. If we're thoughtful about it, we can be insightful on where we want to go. But we don't really know. All you know, it's just going to go up. And as long as you can wake up every morning and accept that life may not get easier immediately, it'll be okay, right? None of you believe that. All right, so how about the paths to DAM? So let's talk about the professions and sort of the background sources that feed into most of the DAM community. Two big ones that always come up, library sciences and IT. Often, if a project starts in the IT department, it really depends on which idea, who had it first. And if you're in a larger corporation, that is then the department that owns the budget, the time, and the expectations. But it also comes from a lot of other different places. And I think that when you look at the range of people who are involved in DAM, you've got things from technologists to curators to librarians to designers to customer service people to very thoughtful individuals. And I put the ... at the end because honestly, one of the most successful people I know started as an admin, worked her way up into a coordinator position, worked her way up into a manager position, and now she's running a dam that holds millions of assets. So the paths are many, and the backgrounds and influences that you bring to that change depending on where you're coming from. And I think to the point earlier about the hub, if you're dealing with creative and art and operations and all of these different teams, where you come from isn't as important as where you're going. And I know that sounds like a life lesson in an airplane magazine that you'll read tonight on the flight, but it's actually very true because all of these roles have specific experiences and they have specific skills that you can bring to being a successful professional. So DNA always fascinates me. My partner's a scientist. He's super cool. I can read exactly one page in his dissertation, and it's the thank you page. And my name's in it. And it is amazing to watch someone at a cocktail party pull out a cocktail napkin and a pen and draw the fifth dimension and be like, oh, this is oxygen, or whatever it is. And you're like, wow. But I wanted to ask a question to the audience about the common DNA. Because I think sometimes we get stuck from points of view from an IT perspective, and sometimes we come from a curation or a library sciences perspective. So when you think about library science and IT, what are actually some of the common frameworks that are in complete agreement that benefit and drive both professions? Anyone? Yes? Structure and data, she said it first. Gold star. That's perfect. What else do we have besides structure? That's not the only answer. Anyone? Anyone? Yes. I literally just pointed at the group hoping one of you would say something. And 5 people did this. So structure, There's commonality, so talk about language, controlled vocabulary, like all of the things that we try to use as DAM professionals actually come from both of these, sort of genealogical histories. And it's fascinating because I think are there librarians in the room or curators? Bless you. Thank God, because if you hadn't started much of this, there would be no structure in the universe. And anyone IT? Thank God as well, because if you weren't there, we would have had a machine, a system, a process to put the structure into. So this is all good. So if you're sitting next to an IT professional and you're a librarian, shake hands. You should, all good. But yes, so commonality, and I know I'm making a little bit light of it, but the reality is that the DNA for success across any field and any background is very similar. So 20 years into DAM, as David was saying in the keynote, and there's no digital asset management graduate program. So this fascinates me. Now, in the United States, that's the caveat. So this fascinates me because there is such a business professional need paired with job opportunity, professional growth, and just like all of the good things that we want as human beings to continue to grow and learn in our career. Now, I put this out there because not only the bonus question, but if you are interested in starting and learning and developing this program, it's people like us in this conference and in this community that need to start asking questions to, centers of higher learning, to other programs, to certificates. Because when you have your resume out and you're looking for a job, and I have recent experience with this, they look for certifications. So if you are going to be a digital asset management professional, someone, probably a recruiter, is going to go down a checkbox and look the list and say, oh, yep, they went to there, very good. I can't find your DAM experience. So there's a challenge for our industry in conveying that. And it's part of how do you tell the story about being that hybrid professional that comes from a library, a technology, a creative, all of the backgrounds that make up what you can be when you're not just selling yourselves, but you're also inside your company selling the value of what DAM is. So does anyone know the country and the college for DAM graduate? King's College, UK, absolutely. And they have a beautiful website. And I put part of this here because I love this quote. Offering insights, great word, curatorial and archival practices, digital assets and technologies. And I want to ask someone who wrote this, but I really appreciate that there's a socioeconomic angle to rights and project management. I love that. I'd love to see that. Yes, very cool. All right, so the DAM landscape is diverse. And I laughed a little bit earlier when I described how if you're working with any type of off-the-shelf system to really large enterprise and custom systems, you could see it all. So small local organizations, multi-divisional entities, right? So you've got, there's a small company in Santa Monica right now that is doing yoga and providing mind and body health. A smaller company, lots of assets, lots of growth. Larger studios, larger entities that are doing commercials, ads, and are tracking all sorts of pieces, difference in scale. This is the scrappy pseudo-DAM system. Like someone should come up with a logo for pseudo-DAM, whether it's Excel, Box, linked access networks. Someone described to me the taxonomy of how to use a network drive, and they thought I was agreeing with them, but I was trying not to laugh, so my face froze. But this is the reality, and it's an opportunity. If you walk into a new assignment or a new role and you see duct tape and glue, you should be like, oh, this is amazing, because you get to create something new. Beloved systems, and by beloved, we all know what those are. And it's not just a DAM system. It could be any beloved implementation where someone literally has put the candle next to that system and keeps it lit as the eternal flame that will always guide your organization to happiness and success. I think my favorite one is J.D. Edwards, and I can't tell you why. I think the NDA still covers it. So enterprise level DAM systems. So this is a good one. Have you ever walked into a shop or a situation where someone was so committed to DAM and they spent that $1 million and they turned it on? But maybe they didn't buy all the modules, or maybe they only turned on some of the modules, or maybe they actually just got sold the framework of the DAM and there are no modules. So that's the eternal flame next to hope. Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. All right, what else might you find? No internal standards. Blessings upon the house that have standards. Silos are still real. You know, David talked about this, that when the industry came into being and digital asset management started, it was supposed to help bring down silos. And we all know that human nature is not always abundant. Sometimes it operates from a place of scarcity, and silos are real. Locked up content. You can't have it. You can't touch it. It's mine. It's over here. It's mine. You can't have it. I need you to do the equivalent of a permission slip to get access to this content. And I think there's a way around that, but it's sort of like the content jail. If you have a user group that really, and for good reasons, they're worried about the wrong content getting to market, maybe they don't have trust in the downstream systems, all of these are valid, real concerns if you're helping run this. Content is simply lost. And I think one of the analogies earlier was it's just misnamed. There was a horrible, horrible moment. I was standing in lunch not too long ago, and a woman behind me from a different studio was whispering to one of the platforms. And she was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, where's our TV content? It had gone. Over the course of midnight, something miraculous, probably related to misprogrammed automation, had deleted all of their studio's TV content from one of your favorite platforms, leaving a blank. And an executive in the morning on vacation in a European time zone, 8 hours ahead, went to look up something on iTunes and could not find any of their movies. Oops, no movies, no TVs, we're so sorry. Content was lost. It wasn't lost. What happened is, on the Excel sheet that drove the program, columns A, B, and C were row 1, and column D on had shifted to row 2. Which meant and I thank you, and I love the groans, which meant that everything was one row off and bounced out of QC. So the content was lost. Levels of acceptance. I'm here to solve your problems. I got an asset management system. Yay, metadata, it's cool. Sometimes you have to really work to tell that narrative and to tell that story. And you're going to find different levels of people who want to buy in, and you're going to have to work with that. Divergent systems and technology. So the secret of most platforms and content creators is that if you counted all the systems it took to get content from creation to you, the consumer, I'll ask a general question. Do you think it takes less than 10 systems to make that happen? Good. None of you are fools. Does it take between 10 and 20 systems to make that happen? Hope is a place in Arkansas. Does it take more, potentially, on average, than 30 systems to get content to the market? Yes. Between rights, metadata, consumer-facing, ads, operations, click, 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 click. Divergent systems is a nice way of saying, basically, the swamp. Incompatible workflows. My workflow does this, and your workflow does this. Occasionally, the trains run into each other, or maybe they have different systems. Taxonomy, and I put the question mark there for some of my friends in the audience. If there is a taxonomy, have you ever explained to an executive what taxonomy is? Governance. Have you ever explained to an executive what governance is? Sort of same question. All right, so what is a hybrid leader? So I took a shot at this, and it's an opening thought. And a hybrid leader draws from a rich and purposefully diverse range of experience. And I wanted to include the word purposely because I think we must make choices to have that diverse range of experiences. Formal training, subject matter expertise. And it combines technical, business, and creative to lead teams and projects to successful and measurable, positive and measurable success. And I put the exclamation point at the end of success, and positive really should have been underlined, because let's face it, this should be fun. Going back to what I said earlier, if you walk into a damn project and you see sticky tape and glue, that's an amazing opportunity. So this is an opening thought. It's not the definitive, but just something to think about, and again, highlighting the word purposefully. So I'd like to introduce you to my grandmother. So this is Vera Stilling. And through the magic of archives, in 1962, she gave an interview as a producer, wife, and mother fostering children's theater. And as I was looking through archives recently and also working on this presentation, I was struck by how my grandmother, who is the son of a fireman and came from a background as a homemaker, raising 5 kids, my father and 4 crazy aunts and uncles, in this article, and it's much too small to read, it actually sort of reads like a damn professional. Function like a chief operations officer, supervise production, assemble, maintain, liaise. And so this article was written in 1962, and I knew my grandmother for many, many years, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. She could have been a damn professional. It would be good. And also, this particular service is so useful, but I was struck by it, that many of the skills and the backgrounds that we look for now in our current fields, they've been around for a while. We're managing, we're talking, we're collaborating, and I thought it was sort of neat to include Mimi in this. So I'm going to go through a couple quick things, and the presentations will be available online, but I wanted to highlight 2 contrasting and current job postings out there. I have changed some of the words, so you won't be smart and Google it right away and get me in trouble, but DAM position number 1, very simple. 2 roles: create and implement a taxonomy, work with technology. All right, this draws from both MLIS and technology backgrounds. The qualifications for this role: anything. You're good. Come on in. You got 1 year experience, and this is live on job sites now. You got 1 year experience, we're good. So I like this because it shows simplified and opportunity. And again, the reason why you're laughing is it's for the same reasons. Here's the next one I found. This is the complex one. So this is only half of the DAM role of what you will be expected to do as a DAM manager for this company. Now, I think I've listed here 14 separate responsibilities. There is a page 2 to this, but for brevity, these are the roles. Now, let's see what are the qualifications for this absolute wizard. And I looked through this, and I would color-coded it at first. Whoops, I think I actually put the company on there. Yikes. Next page. And so, qualifications. These are the qualifications for all of that. Have a certificate, preferred, 5 years of experience, and you have to know how to use a PC. So I'll leave that as it is. I humbly apologize if you work for the company I just posted. So diagramming the roles, and we'll click through these again, just sort of fast. But these are just highlights. So when you look through the roles, you know, what David said at the beginning, mission and mandate. How do you define success? You know, you're looking for these skills in communication, comfortable communicating, telling a story, use the language of the business, very important. Talk about structure. When you think about some of the other pieces you need, you're going to be needing some project management. You're talking about metrics. Now, metrics is interesting because even though that we always talk about data, we don't always include metrics, because what metrics show are the cockroaches that are living under your rug. That's what they're really there for. It's a big flashlight in a fun way, or you could look at ads. Metrics show you how to succeed and get even better. And I think sometimes we get lost between what's the real purpose of metrics, and hopefully the organization and the role supports it. And then, again, technology. And these are just highlights, not necessarily in a preferred order, but these 2 slides give you an idea of some of that hybrid background. You're coming from taxonomy, you're coming from, you know, technology, you're working on project management, you're collaborating, you're really invested across a really diverse range of fields. And I think that as you consider your own careers and those as you hopefully have input into the roles going forward, this is giving you a starter sense of the diverse range of skills and sort of mindset that you want to have. So how do you get these? So conferences and community. Welcome to Henry Stewart NYC. Talk to people. If you have come to a conference and you have not at least met 5 people and gotten 20 LinkedIns, come on, these are the amazing people you should know. Formal and informal training. You don't always have to take a class. There's self-study, online, find a program. We know that. Your clients and partners, right? Friends and family. And last but not least, but we usually forget this one, are your colleagues. Like, to ask a question at work, I'm not sure when that became a bad thing, but you are allowed to ask for help, and you are and you should learn from the people you work with. So in terms of philosophy, having an open mindset, being collaborative, being authentic, asking questions, this is a little bit, maybe it's a little bit of that fuzzy thing, but it's really important. And if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. So I'll leave you as I look at time just with a couple of pieces from that article with my grandmother. One is, for a show to be a success, she feels the play must be produced in New York to receive the recognition it deserves. I thought that was apropos. For number 2, how do you manage? And this is true, and I never understood why the phone had a 9-foot cord. She turned our guest room into a paper-filled, junk-filled office and installed the 9-foot wire so she could walk all over the place while she talks and listens. I love that image of my grandmother pacing through junk, like she could have been a damn manager. Now, of course, in 1962, a successful businesswoman was not complete unless they included at the end of the article her recipe for macaroni and cheese. So on that happy thought, I hope I've given you a little bit of a laugh and a smile and encouraged you in the direction to become good hybrid professionals. Thank you. So, cheers.